Hi, folks. Mark Merrill with Firm, Fairness in Reporting Media. Maine hospitals. What now? For patients and primary care providers. We're going to be getting some information here from the Maine Policy Institute in a combination or tag team also with the Maine Wire and some recordings, some previous audio interviews actually, with the gentleman you see here, Billy Bob Faulkingham, the House Minority Leader in the Maine legislature. Before we follow up on Maine hospitals and their future in the medical field here from Firm's point of view, let's hear from Mr. Faulkingham and his important views on Democrats' handling of budgets, taxes, which affected some of our hospitals having to close, darn it, and who are we going to trust when it comes right down to the bottom line decisions on those issues? Interesting what Mr. Faulkingham had to say.
Looking at the bigger picture, from my perspective, is one of the leaders in the, certainly the Republican House caucus, but the Republican Party statewide. This is an issue we've clearly won on, the budget issue. So, it's hard to beat them in this building where they control the governor, the House, the Senate, and, a veto happens. Maybe they just go ahead and pass another one on their own anyway. It seems like we don't win in this building, but where we are winning is outside of this building. And I think that was very clear when you looked at the governor's polling numbers before the whole transgender blow up in the White House. Before that, the governor was underwater, 48% approval, 49% disapproval. And that was the worst she had ever been performing. And when you looked at those polling numbers, it was all based on the budget issues. And
Surprise.
When people weigh in on a poll like that, they see the governor as the party. She's representative of the party. So the Democrat Party is losing on the budget issues, all these continuous bigger budgets, more taxes, more spending that they keep doing. And it's not going to get any better because you got to remember there's another supplemental budget coming. The first budget was unbalanced. So they're going to come in with another supplemental budget, which don't forget, is going to include the taxes that the governor talked about, all along. They sort of dodged that, as you said, kicked it down the road a little bit.
Been using that for a long time.
So they kicked those taxes down the road, but they're still out there. They're still going to be coming. So they're going to come in the supplemental budget. There'll be more spending, more state positions, more taxes. So I've got my eyes on that budget, see how they're going to, navigate that. But if we can survive another 2 years in the state of Maine, the people will have a chance to get the budget they want.
Thank you, Mr. Faulkingham, on that one. And we're going to skip a little forward here, folks, on a excerpt we got from the Maine Wire and tag team kind of with the Maine Policy Institute on one of their podcasts, broadcast, or I should say recorded and online. You can find it, and we'll certainly supply you with at least what the episode is, but also the link to Maine Policy Institute and the Maine Wire. In this particular topic, Maine hospitals. What now for patients and primary care providers? Here on Firm. We're going a little bit forward here, folks, and we're going to see what we can do to get Mr. Robinson, Steve Robinson, by the way, from the Maine Wire, who was on the program there with the Maine Policy Institute hosts as well. And as for the future, folks, the current state of our closed hospitals, We looked into what the Maine Wire and Policy Institute had found in this report. This is from the audio recording, part of a podcast, not that long ago, around May 15th or 16th. It's titled Maine's Fiscal Dumpster Fire, episode number 45, and we'll make sure you get that link. But here's just some very vivid and accurate viewpoints that all Maine citizens should pay attention to. This is Steve Robinson speaking.
New information from the Maine Wire and or Maine Policy Institute for firm June 2nd, 2025. Follow-up coming.
From the passage of the budget to who the governor is signing the budget to the selection of the person who's the auditor, Republicans are completely out of this story entirely. Steve Robinson here, joining Harris and Jake and myself. Steve, I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to you to kind of explain what was inside this, because that's maybe a good place to begin. Is you had this audit that was done. What did it find? What is the ugliness I refer to? That's maybe a decent place to begin.
Yeah, of course. So one of the funny things about this is that the audit's actually still not available on the state auditor's website. They haven't posted it yet, which I find amusing, but they did post it at the National Auditors Clearinghouse website, which is where you can go if you want to find the audit before other people find the audit, which is what I did. And there were there's a few keywords that you can look for in an audit if you're looking for the embarrassing stuff. Material weakness and significant deficiency. Those are things you never want to find in an audit if someone's looking at your business practices, your taxes, or basically anything you do. And in the case of government procurement, what the auditor found was material weaknesses and significant deficiencies. And specifically, he found those with regard to how the state utilizes no-bid contracts. So to set the table for this, you have to understand that the government goes out and buys lots of goods and services. They have an office that does this. So
That's an understatement. I mean,
yeah, I'm just trying to be as simplified as possible here. So we have the Department of Administrative and Financial Services. Within that, we have the Bureau of General Services. And then underneath that, we have the Office of State Procurement Services. And these layers of bureaucracy create a process where when the legislature passes a bill that says you have to put a Pride Progress flag in every single school, that then eventually reaches the Office of State Procurement Services, and they have to figure out how to go out and buy Pride Progress flags for every single school. Typically, the process is supposed to be open to competitive bidding. You're supposed to put out a request for proposals, and then everybody who makes Pride Progress flags has the opportunity to come in and say, this is the price we can supply them at, and this is the high quality of our flags. It's open, it's transparent, and the competitive process pushes the price down so that taxpayers get the cheapest possible Pride Progress flags that they can possibly get. That's the open, transparent way to do government procurement for goods or services. Competitive bidding, open, anybody can participate, and there's criteria that are published in advance so everybody knows who's deciding, how, lots of transparency.
and it's kind of what we can all agree is fair.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Generally.
There's another way to do government procurement. It's no bid, sole source, non-competitive bidding. Now, there are some legitimate reasons why you might do this. There are emergencies. There are unique vendors who could be the only supplier of a certain good or service. So there are some legitimate reasons why you would do no bid, non-competitive procurement through the state government. And for this reason, there's a process set up for no bid contracts or for goods and services over $5,000. The process is that the head of the agency or sub-agency who is insisting on a no-bid contract fills out what's called a project justification form. This form says, hi, my name's Steve Robinson, and I'm directing, this contract for $800,000 to Robinson Brothers Landscaping because they're the only people who can mow the lawn around the Maine Wire headquarters because of their unique set of skills. And then this goes to somebody at the Bureau of General General Services, who looks at it, evaluates it, and says, yep, that's a legit no-bid contract, and signs off on it. What the auditor found basically was that this process has broken down at every single step. In every possible way imaginable, the no-bid contract process is flawed, open to waste, fraud, abuse, and indeed corruption. The person responsible for overseeing and vetting the project justification forms wasn't doing any of that. And it gets better.
The guy minding the store was just kind of taking a nap in the
He was doing no vetting of the no-bid contract justification forms.
So just signing off on it.
And there might be a reason why. This guy, his name until at least August of last year was William Longfellow. He was the director of the Bureau of General Services.
Gee, does that kind of say it all there, ladies and gentlemen? Maine citizens specifically? Does to me. Stinks to high heaven. Worse than your grandfather's manure pile. You see me laughing? You shouldn't either. And neither should your children or grandchildren. The fact that we have to put up with the likes of her, what's happened? Maine citizens, overall, is that the deflectocrats, or evil bureaucrats, we call them at firm, you just heard from Steve Robinson of the Maine Wire, do not have, nor have ever had, your personal freedoms or rights upheld under the Maine or United States Constitution for several fiscal years. As a matter of fact, going back only God knows to the terms of Joe Brennan. If anybody's still alive who remembers him as governor, yeah, right. Or prior to then. And what is now starting to hurt people the most is that now, since the monies that came in to fund Maine Care months ago, maybe even over 1 to 2 years ago, just over a period of time, fiscal, yeah, just throw it over there, we'll deal with it maybe, says guess who? And while we're at it here, folks, Speaker of the House before Ryan Fecto was Sarah Gideon. They all have blood on their hands as far as we're concerned. The United States congressional delegation does as well. Not so much Jared Golden. He doesn't know the difference between up or down, let alone fiscal budgets and taxes. But the monies were never reported to fund hospitals and doctors and nurses and medical staffers working hours and days and weeks and months. Never mind the operations of the hospitals, now in closing or already have been closed, like Northern Lights Inland Hospital, Sebasticook Valley, cut back at least, we've heard recently, but maybe closing. That's up in Pittsfield. And other small regional hospitals and clinics that depend on state money. It's the way it's always been, folks. Then all of a sudden, people get greedy. Somebody like Donald Trump enters the White House and, gee whiz, all of a sudden all hell breaks loose. Well, that's too damn bad. You should get your priorities in order, Janet Mills. In the meantime, everyone out there in the entire state of Maine, around the country as well, as our podcast goes on rumble.com/fairnessmedia1 around the country, not just in Maine. Nationally also on YouTube, Twitter, or X.com. And 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, folks. Look for our car in the central Maine area. Between Bangor, Skowhegan, Waterville, Augusta, and outlying towns around the state capital. fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com, fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com. As always, folks, we thank you for joining us for our podcast on a regular basis. In the meantime, safe travels during our holiday season, our tourism season, which is vital to Maine's economy. Despite what you've heard about lack of tourism coming into the state. We'll end on a positive note, though, folks. Maine is one of the most beautiful states in the United States in the east and northeast, as far as we're concerned. And can't take the tourism and the beauty of our state away from anyone. Peace to all.